Hi everyone. So we've had some requests about the face mask that I've been making. So I wanted to share how I've been making it. And like I said in the blog post, this is kind of a combination of several mask patterns I saw. But this is how I've been making it. So this is the finished result. It has a pocket so that you can insert a filter if you want to. You don't have to, but you can if you want. We've been using industrial strength paper towels as a filter. You can use vacuum bags, that's another option. Or like I said, you don't have to do anything at all. So there are 3 pleats on both sides, and then there are these channels here that I've attached for the elastic, or you could put shoelaces or string or anything really. One other thing I'll note about this is that there is a channel. It's the hemming, but it also serves as a channel to insert wire here if you want, so that the mask can really mold to your nose. So I've been using wire. I've seen people say you can use paper clips or twist ties also. So lots of options if you do want to put in a wire. But like I said, that's another optional one. So what you need to start is you're going to need a rectangle of fabric. That is 8.5 inches wide and about 17 inches long. And then for the 2 channels, like I showed here, you're going to need 2 little squares of fabric that are 3 inches by 3.5 inches long. So that's the fabric you'll need to get started. So, and this is thick cotton, I should say. Yeah. So the first thing that you're going to do to get started is cut that out, and then it's up to you. If you don't mind having the same type of fabric be on both the front and the back, then this rectangle is good for you. If you want to make sure to remember which side is the outside of the mask and which side is the inside of the mask, what I've been doing, if you have a patterned fabric where you can easily tell there is a right side and a wrong side, what I've been doing is I've been cutting this in half, and then one half of the mask I put this fabric on one side and then the right side fabric on the other side. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to cut this in half. But like I said, if you don't mind that, then use it as a rectangle. It'll save you one seam, a little less thread. But I'm going to cut this quickly. Like I said, so you're going to cut it. Okay. And then once you cut it, you'll need to get your pins because you're going to start pinning. So once you have your 1 long rectangle or 2 smaller rectangles, what you're going to do is you're going to pin the 3 pleats in. So get your pins. And what I've been doing is I've been doing about 1/2 inch pleats. Pretty much 1/2 inch or 2 inches from the bottom. It doesn't really matter. This just lets the fabric stretch over your entire face, but that's about where I've been doing it. So I make the pleats like so. I'll just show you here. And then I've been stacking them pretty close, like you can see in the sample I just showed. I haven't been putting a lot of space between them. They're pretty much 1, 2, 3, pretty consecutive. And as you see, it stretches out like that while holding the ends in tight. So I'll just go ahead and make this one. One more pin. Let's see, here we go. All right. And then just one more pleat. And it reduces this, with these 3 pleats, and it really reduces the size of your fabric, as you can see, by about half, since this was the starter one. And then here it is with the pleats. So that's a good gauge if you're not sure if your pleats are deep enough. You should make sure that the mask goes in pretty significantly. So I'll just pin the last one. And now the last step of pinning to do is to fold over that hem like I showed here. So I folded it over this way, but since I said I was going to make my mask with the both sides of the fabric showing, for this one I'm going to pin it down like this because I'm going to actually have this side showing on my finished mask. So you pin it down here, and now the next step is to iron. That's technically optional, but I found it really helps. It really sets those pleats in, which means that it makes it sewing on the sewing machine much easier when the fabric really just holds all those pleats. So I'm going to heat up the iron I've got here. Let me go plug it in. And so let me just do that. Okay. And one thing I will say while I'm heating up the iron is that I recommend washing the fabric beforehand, as with all sewing projects. That just makes the fabric more, that prevents the fabric from shrinking when you go to wash the mask later. Right, just gonna move this side, and then this down. We don't have an ironing board, so we've got a bit of a makeshift one, but it works just as well. Okay, so what you're gonna do now is you're gonna iron those pleats in so that you can remove the pins, in fact. That's what I've been doing, so that it's just one less thing to think about while you're sewing. Okay, so I think that's hot now. Let's see. Okay. So here we go. Try not to burn the pins. I did have some funny smells, but if that happens, that's okay too. Okay. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Iron that. And then, like I said, iron down this one too. So I remove the pin. But iron it down so that it holds. That hem holds. Let's see. There we go. And like I said at the beginning of this video, this is the hem for the mask, but it's also serves as a channel if you want to insert some wire or twist tie, like I said. Okay, so I'm going to remove these pins. Give it one more ironing, and then it should pretty much hold the pleats. Okay, there we go. Perfect. And now I'll do that to the other one. But like I said, I'm going to put the hem on this side because I'm going to want this side to be on the outside of the mask. Okay, so there we go. Gonna iron that. And then iron down the hem. Okay, and then like I said, I'll remove the pins and give it one final iron. There we go. That looks pretty much like everything's been set. And now the next step is to use those squares, the channel that the elastic, the shoelace or whatever goes through. And so what I've been doing is I've got them already ironed. I've been folding down the two sides so that you don't have to stitch that to hem it. It'll just hold it automatically. So you can see here there's no actual stitching, but it keeps it from fraying when you have them tucked in. So I iron that down, and then just to make it easier on myself, once I've ironed those two down, I fold it in half and iron the seam so that it sits nicely when I'm sewing. So I'll demonstrate that here. So I just, and I guess you could pre-pin this if you want. I just do it with the iron. But if you want, you could pin this ahead of time to make it a little easier. All right, so you pin that, iron it down rather, sorry. Iron that down, and you don't have to be too precise. I cut these squares on the generous side, so you don't have to worry exactly how much, but I guess I do probably a third of an inch over. But like I said, you don't have to be too precise. Okay, here we go. Okay, and then I'll fold down this one too. Okay, so now once this is ironed, you have everything set to sew. So you can bring out the sewing machine. Okay. Okay, so now everything's set up for sewing. Turn off that iron. Don't want to burn anything. And now what I quickly do is I pin. So this is the outside of my mask, and this is the other outside of my mask. Move those two off. There we go. Okay. So I have the two outsides facing up, and I take the little channels, I don't know what to call them, I guess, for the elastic, or like I said, any other string or anything. And you want to, the side that they've been ironed on, you want that to be on the inside, and you place that roughly in the middle of the mask with the outside flaps outside of the mask. And you place that here too. I've cut them so that there's a fair amount that can hang over, and then as you'll see on this sample, where's the opening, they hang into the mask also a fair amount. Those are the tabs, so it's about half in on the mask, half out on the mask. If you don't want to, if you can't spare that much fabric, you can cut these smaller. I really wanted to make sure that they would not pop out of the mask though when they get pulled, because these have to get pulled a bit, and I wanted them to be durable. So that's why I made them this wide, but you could make them narrower, or in fact to line up exactly with the mask if you wanted to. But I really wanted to make sure that they were durable. So when I pin them, I have about half on the mask and half on off the mask. And those are the two pins that I do put in, because I don't want it to move around while I'm sewing. So pin that, and then one more pin that I do put in, but of course pins are personal choice, is okay, so you want the outside to be facing in, so both outsides are touching each other now. Okay, and I'm going to put one last pin in so that everything stays together. There we go. Line that up. There we go. So like I said, the two outsides are touching each other. The outside of the channel is sticking out, and now you're ready to sew. Okay, so now that you're ready to sew, get your sewing machine. And the first thing that I like to do is I like to hem down those two edges, sew down those two edges that we ironed on this side and this side, so this doesn't sew the mask together, but it finishes those two edges, and it's easiest to do now before the rest of the mask is sewn up. So I'm just gonna sew down those two straight lines. One thing I will mention is that here's the mask. What I did when I was sewing it was right in the center of the mask. Let me find it. I actually stopped sewing, picked up the needle, pulled the fabric a bit, and then put it down and started sewing again, so that there was a bit of a wider hole if you did want to insert the wire. If you're not going to insert the wire, you can just sew straight across. But I thought it was an interesting touch. So you can see here, the stitching. I'm not sure if the camera's focusing out the stitching, and then there's a bit of a wider one right here, a wider gap where you can really open it up and insert that wire pretty easily. So I'm going to do that again here because I do have the wire. So I just put this down. I'm going to sew. Right. Okay, and now I'm in the middle, so I'm going to lift that up, pull that fabric back a bit. You can use, it's a little hard on the needle, so I tend to pull down the thread a little bit and to help the needle so that there's not quite as much thread tugging on it. And then lower it again and continue, oopsie, continue sewing to the end. Okay, pull that up. Let's get the scissors that fell and cut it. There we go. And I'm going to do the same to the other side over here. And since I only need wire on one side, I'm actually not going to do that gap on this side. I'm just going to sew straight across because I only keep the wire on the outer side. So I'm going to put it here, sew straight across, and after this step you're ready to sew the mask together. Okay, there you go. Almost across. There we go. Pull it up, chop. Okay, so now you're ready to sew. So, let's talk about what order I sew things in. I don't know, I don't tend to cut my threads much because I don't want it to unravel. But so what I like to do here in this case is I like to start at the bottom of the mask and sew up so that the beginning and end threads are at the bottom of the mask and not going to be in someone's face while they're wearing the mask. I also like to reinforce this side since it gets tugged on when the mask is being worn. As you can imagine, this goes around the head, right? So this side seam kind of gets some pressure there. So what I like to do is I like to start at the bottom of the mask, go up, then what I do is I go across by about 2 inches, just so that if you do want to put something in, it won't come flying out. So you'll notice I only leave it open about the center 3 inches, and either side of this mask I've sewn closed to itself. So that there, it's closed, and then here it's open. So what I like to do is I like to start at the bottom, go up, go in about 2 inches, then go back and go down, and then if you're using 2 different pieces of fabric, sew across and then go up, cross, back, and then down, and then you're done. Or if you're only using 1 piece of fabric, you can just repeat what you did over here of going up, going across, going back, and then cut the thread, and then do that over here. But I will emphasize that I like to start at the bottom of the mask so that the threads are not in your face. So I'm going to do that now, and we're pretty much almost done. Just after this step, everything's good to go, and you can, there we go, okay. So I'm going to sew now. Let's see, okay, there we go. I'm going to actually sew on this side because I don't want to only sew one side together and not both sides. I'm not an expert sewer. I do much more, I spend a lot more time knitting. So sometimes my seam allowance gets a little wonky. Okay. Let's see, there we go. Sometimes the pleats also get stuck in the foot. You can free them easily. Okay, so then I turn, lower it back down, and sew about 2 inches. Like I said, that creates a nice, it seals it nice, but it also leaves enough space to easily insert vacuum filter or thick paper towel, any of those options. Okay. Okay, and then turn it. So now I'm completing one side of the mask. And now I'm going to sew across the bottom. So turn that. There we go. Just a straight line. Oopsie, has it gotten jammed? There we go. Okay. It's an old machine. Sometimes it has a little jam. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now I'm on the last side of the mask, and like I said, I'm going to sew up, I'm going to sew across, and then repeat, just go back on my work. But I'm not reinforcing the bottom seam because I don't think it gets a lot of pressure. Okay, there we go. And then I turn it and just do the 2 inches at the top of the mask on either side. And then I go back on my work. I hope this makes sense. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help. Okay. So now we end up at the bottom of the mask, which is what I wanted, because I like the loose threads to be at the bottom and not in the wearer's face. And now you can remove those pins that you put in after you were done ironing and turn the mask inside, or right side out rather. You've got it inside out now. Okay, remove those pins. There we go. Poke out the corners. Sometimes the corners are hiding a little bit. And then you have your mask. Let's see. Here we go. Get this one more corner out. Okay. There we go. Okay. So there you've got your mask. Let me move this out of the way. You've got your mask, and like I said, you've got the wrong side and the right side. You can see it's brighter on this side. So this way you know which side to wear it on, which side is the outside and which side touches your face. And then like I mentioned, if you want to put in wire, I do about, I don't know, 5 inches or so. But you can also use a twist tie, so that tells you about what length to do. So you can cut that and insert it in, and there you go. I will mention I boil my mask every time after I wear it. I never reuse a mask without washing it in between, and when I boil it, what I like to do is I remove the wire because I'm not really sure. As you can see, it's got some green coating on it, and I don't think that's great to boil. So I remove that, and then I boil it to sanitize it, and I let it dry. And then I put in the straps, and you're good to go. Okay, I hope that was helpful. And like I said, let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help. Okay, thank you. Bye.